Hi guys, Twitch here. This is my attempt at bringing you another Ugly Duckling challenge hosted by Cory at Desert DIY. Cutting it down to the wire for this one because the due date is, the challenge goes live in 1 day, I think, so tomorrow for me. And I've been busy getting all the parts painted for my mum's new kitchen that's getting installed in 2 days. I've got a couple more parts to finish off, but that can wait until tomorrow because right now I want to do some furniture work and get my brain back in some kind of functionality. Just like the last Ugly Duckling challenge, also hosted by Cory, the goal is to take a piece that is ugly and make it beautiful. So the piece I've got here was given to me by a friend's mum. So some might say it's not really ugly. Once you've seen the inside, you'll understand why. So let's have a look. So here she is. I'm pretty sure looking at I think it might be silky oak, but I'm not sure. Someone else might be able to tell me. This is how recently I've been working on it. I was using it to sit paint and stuff on it for the parts that I was painting for my mum's kitchen. That's how fast I've gone from painting a kitchen to working on this. So it's pretty basic. It doesn't have a nice top hanging over. This is why my pants look like this. Literally all of them look like that. First things first, I'll bugger this off. It's got a lock. And the inside has a latch on there. Instantly the inside smells absolutely horrible. Ugh, let's take a seat. So, initially I thought these were just shelves. But they actually slide really badly, I might add. I can't get it back in. Looks like there might have been things nesting in here at some point, so it is going to need a really good clean. I did originally start off thinking of a way that I could utilise the sliding drawers and maybe put wire baskets in here, but that wasn't really going to work out how I wanted it to, and it would have meant putting more money into this than I really wanted to because it's such a unappealing piece. It doesn't really have anything exciting going on or anything like that, and I'm not really going to ask a lot of money for it when it comes time to sell it because of the condition it's in. I'll work my magic on it, but you know, things don't always work out how we want it. So I'm going cheap with this one. But you see now why it's ugly. And it's got a mesh, like vent in the back of it. So the only thing I can think is that maybe it was used as a drying cabinet for like meats or maybe flowers, herbs, something like that. You know, body parts, maybe, who knows, maybe someone can shed some light on it, or if someone is good at researching these things, let me know in the comments what you think it might have been. That's how dirty the water is already, and I've only just started. It's like mud. I think some of what was in that water may have been some of the tannin because it's a fair bit lighter now, but pretty sure a lot of that was like mud and probably feces and stuff. Alright, so because I took the runners out, I needed to replace it with a couple of shells, and I'm just using, I can't remember the thickness of it, but really thick MDF. So I started by measuring the length and marking that up and cutting it. Whilst checking that they fit, I took my marker and marked where I needed to cut along the front. So when you're going to be painting MDF, you want to seal the fibres first, otherwise the paint just soaks into the fibres and you end up using a lot more paint than you really want to. So for this I'm just rolling on Monocell's water-based clear coat, just the cheap stuff from Bunnings. You can also use Millie Topcoat, it'll work just the same, but I just don't want to waste my good stuff. Smooth sanding it before I go in with my Millie primer and adhesive bond. Whilst doing this, I was having flashbacks to painting the parts from my mum's kitchen. So I started rolling my Custom Millie primer and adhesive bond on, but it was turning browny yellow colour as I was rolling it on. So this was definitely a bleeder. I could have gone to Bunnings and picked up a tin of Binzinza that has a tannin blocker in it, but I didn't want to go for a special trip just for this piece, and I really didn't have the time to do it. So instead of fighting against the tannin and trying to paint it white like I wanted to, I decided to work with it instead of making my life harder, and altered my plan slightly. So I'm going to be painting the inside of this in Cup of Joe. I did want to paint the inside white to make it nice and fresh and clean, but I don't want to make my life harder again, so I'm just going to paint it brown. Just gotta say, whilst painting this and as the paint was drying, it was like looking at dark chocolate, and the fat kid in me almost wanted to eat it. So I'm going to be using Suffuse paint in Little Lamb. A lot of people have been asking about the difference between the boutique mineral paint and the Suffuse paint. I could go into it now, but I'm going to do something up and create something that I can share with everyone that will easily help people work out the difference and work out what is best for their project. So I wanted to add some texture to this piece, so I'm putting some of the Suffuse paint in Little Lamb in a cup and adding some Custom Millie Sandy Crush. I want the texture on this to be fairly coarse and rough, so I'm just adding extra until I get it to the consistency I want it. To do this, I'm just going to use a cheap disposable brush from Sleek Brushes Australia. You can just throw it out. I would rather wash it, as I did. There was nothing wrong with it when I finished using it, so rather than just throwing it out, I'll get as much use out of it as I can. So for this, I'm just dabbing and stabbing and stippling and swiping and just putting the texture wherever I want it. You can remove it if you want, just wipe it back and start again. Just kind of starting at the top and blending down. I do some at the bottom as well, but I don't want as much along the bottom. And just kind of focusing on the corners and the edges and around the hinges and stuff. I'm using Cup of Joe again, this time with my new Uni-Pro chalk brush, and I'm just kind of dabbing it on wherever the texture is. I ended up going darker than this and thicker with it because it was just too light for me. It looks a bit sketchy now, but just trust the process. Alright, now for the pretty stuff. I'm using Millie Suffuse paint in the colour Woodlands. And again, I'm using the Uni-Pro chalk brush. I'm only doing one coat of this because the coverage on this Suffuse paint is absolutely mind-boggling. I can't do this today. Mind-boggling. And I'm going for a rough effect anyway, so it all just kind of works out. I did originally paint the base of this brown, but changed my mind and decided to go in with the Woodlands around there too. So I'm just using, I think it was 240 grit sandpaper just to smooth the texture down a bit and to bring through some of that little lamb. And then I'm taking 80 grit sandpaper and going around all the corners and edges and anything that's sticking out and really roughing up all that detail and showing through some of that wood and Cup of Joe, and just, you know, really going to town with the distressing. So now I'm doing the brown wash and just adding some Cup of Joe to a little bit of water, giving it a mix, and using a round sleek brush to do, it's kind of like a glaze, I guess, but I'm just calling it a brown wash. So I was taking a bit too much off and it was a bit too thin at this point, so I ended up going and adding some more Cup of Joe to the water to darken it a bit. And rather than using a wiping motion with the rag, I am brushing it on and then dabbing it off. Focusing on the corners again, but I ended up going over all the flat surfaces with it as well and just kind of wiping it and dragging it down to get that really grimy washed effect. I'm not completely finished with this yet, but because I've used Suffuse paint, I need to seal it, and I'm using Millie Topcoat and just a cheap sleek brush. Being haphazard with it because this isn't its final form. I'm going to be using transfers on it, and when you're using transfers on Suffuse paint, you need to seal the paint first. Before I go any further with it, I want to get this top done, and I was going to stain it, but I'm just going to use Millie Hemp oil, and I'm glad I did because it turned out absolutely amazing. Like, it just really popped that green and made the colour so beautiful. So you can brush this on, so you can pour it into a container and brush it on and then wipe it back, but I just like to pour it on, or you know, pour some onto a rag and wipe it on. Alright, we're on the home stretch. So I'm using Iron Orchid Designs transfers. I can't think what the name of it is now, but I will put it in the description. You can get these from Millie for now, but Millie are bringing out their own transfers. If you haven't seen the ads for them already, you can pre-order. They are absolutely amazing. But for now, I have a whole bunch of transfers that I need to use up. So I'm starting with this one because I thought this one would be perfectly suited to this piece. Once I finished putting on all of the transfers that I wanted on there, I then went over it again with another coat of Millie Topcoat. went back and forth about deciding what knob to use, but I settled on this one because I feel it is perfectly suited to this piece. The bolt on it is a bit too long, so I just grab my marker, mark where I need to cut it, and then I'll just cut it off with the hacksaw. I got these from Samantha Vine at Upcycled Treasures in Harrisville, Queensland. Quick reminder of what it looked like before. And here she is now. I wasn't going to try and sell her because of the state she was in before I refinished her, but you know, I'm so happy with this. How can I not get rid of it? So make sure you let me know what you think in the comments, and don't forget to share, and make sure you watch all of the other videos in the playlist if you haven't already. There is some fantastic work, and everyone has put in so much effort in this challenge as always, and I want to give a huge thank you to Cory for organising this challenge, just like the one last year. Had a great time doing it. I probably shouldn't have rushed it so much, but I got there in the end. Again, remember to share and comment and like, and if you haven't already, please subscribe. And everything that I've used and links to everything else will be in the description as always. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.